Greetings, friends, and welcome to the September edition of the Forgotten Fields Project. For some folks now, the growing season is tapering off with the arrival of cooler nights. We're going to go over that with our special guest, Chuck Miller, the pastor of Wheatland Lutheran Church. I'm Robin Reed. You know, the weather has not been kind at all times this summer and this early fall season. In fact, here at our farm at Twin Cedars Fincastle, it rained, and then it rained, and then it rained some more. And then when it stopped doing that, it showered, and then it dripped, and then it rained some more. And as growers out there know, there are certain plants that are not very happy with that process, and that would be pumpkins. I think the old expression is they don't like wet feet. Well, their feet were soaking all season long, and so we planted enough seeds to maybe have 400 pumpkins, and by golly, we had 40, which tells you something about the mud. So anyway, it wasn't the best of years for us, but we understand why, and we're anxious to get started again next year and see what we can do with pumpkins. But that was not the lead story. Over the course of the last couple of weeks, the weather's been kind of strange. It's been kind of hot and kind of cold, and when a couple of fronts formed and came through here at a brisk wind speed, they did some damage. And in fact, one of the premier events that happens around this part of the world this time of the year is a festival of sunflowers. And Beaver Dam Farm has been making that a destination a couple of weekends for quite some time now. And for this particular front that came through with gusty winds that, I don't know, maybe 60, 70 miles an hour, judging from the damage that it did to the vendors that were pre-setting up, it was not good. And of course, some of the flowers themselves were affected by that, but Candace never lets that bother her in any way, shape, or form. And neither does Chuck, because it turns out that in addition to some other things we're going to talk to him about, what did you do? You had a tent set up and it was ready to go.
We did. We had our tent. We've been fortunate enough to be a part of this for the 10 years it's been around, and we take part in doing some fundraising for various things, community and youth formation, and we had our tent up ready to go. It's a 20 by 30 tent. Took us about 15 hours to get everything in play, and it took the wind about 35 seconds to take it down.
Nature's a wonderful thing.
It is.
Sometimes. Very, very magical. No, but everybody was okay, and you came up with a backup plan, and as we're recording this, it's week 2 of the festival, and it seems to be progressing pretty nicely. So when we invited you here, our intention was to talk a little bit about an amazing project that you started a few years ago in the quote-unquote backyard of your church, and sitting down the hill, and you and I were talking years ago, and you talked about what you wanted to do, and that was basically grow food, and grow food for a very special reason. If you would take just a few moments to remind us what the initial dream was and sort of what it's become.
Sure, I'd like to. It was a project that came out of one of the classes that I was taking in seminary. And the professor said, if you want to do a community garden, and he didn't need to say anything else. So I came back and we started a small community garden up near the church. It was a raised garden, and we grew squash, and we took it to the local food pantry. And we've got in the neighborhood of 12, 13 acres. So the thought was we can utilize some of that. So we went down over the hill, as it were, and had, for the first couple of years, the best crop of weeds and stuff ever. So
weeds are good sometimes.
They did really well, really good. And mind you, they didn't do too bad this last season either. But so that began what we were working on putting together, along with the expertise of the community around us, is a community garden where we grow vegetables that then we can supply food to multiple food pantries in the area.
As you discovered that, and as you started that process, I seem to recall there was a point in time when you involved Virginia Tech and how they could bring expertise and knowledge and maybe more importantly, volunteers to it at certain times. Was that a successful project for you?
Absolutely, it was. They were incredible to have on board because they were the ones that I could make a phone call to the horticulture department when we had weird looking plants and couldn't figure out why they're doing what they're doing. So that relationship for multiple years was fantastic with them. And in addition to that, we have another fall festival and have had it for the last several years. And they found a way to come down and do some studies on growing pumpkins, since you mentioned pumpkins, and they would grow them down there and then give them to us, and we'd hand them out to kids that came to the fall festival. So
That's the best part, right?
it was the best part.
Pumpkin, there's something about that color, that shape, and young memories that will become later more memories. And I think there's nothing more friendly than a pumpkin.
Absolutely. And I was unaware that there were so many varieties of pumpkins. So it was really cool to see that.
Absolutely. So folks may not know your former life, your former occupation, and things that you've been doing for a while. So take me through your experiences in your first big job and how that got you to where you are now.
Well, so I worked for 36 years for PepsiCo, and 29 of that was with Frito-Lay. And I was always in sales and had migrated into human resources / learning and development. And this was really fortunate enough to be in a vocation where I could support people and get them the tools that they needed to do even better things. Not sure how that transfers or translates into the current vocation, other than understanding that there was something bigger being calling me into this one at this point. But that was the first career, which I absolutely loved and was incredibly beneficial because the skill sets from the first vocation worked very well in the second vocation.
Have you ever stopped and said, I thought I was going to retire from one and might just take it a little bit easier, and found that that's not the case?
Probably at least 10 times a year.
Well, you're a slow learner, aren't you?
I am. I admittedly, yeah, I am.
No, that's a funny comment because he is prolific in the kinds of things he takes on, and he's prolific in his, I think, love for a lot of things, but mostly his love for helping people. Because if you're going to grow food and you're going to do your best to put it in the hands of people that need food, I find it hard to sort of top that today. And I think we're getting ready to go into a period, Chuck, where that's even more challenging than it was, say, a few years ago.
I think so. I don't think so. I know so. I know that we're heading in that direction, and we still need to be able to be educated enough and willing enough to make sure that it's just not some substandard whatever, that it is something that's very good quality that we can pass on to others.
It's always a challenge to grow things. It's always a challenge to distribute them. There's so many challenges here. The weather notwithstanding, people make decisions about what they want to do and not want to do. And one of the things that has sort of come around in recent years is if you eat poorly, you will have a price to pay with your health. And if you eat better, chances are that you'll get better results, say in school or whatever you're focusing on. What kinds of stories can you share with us that say for you that was the aha moment that you were on the right track?
Oh, I think the excitement that was generated every spring by the inquisitive people that were coming by and saying, "Are y'all going to have fresh vegetables again this year?" And how they couldn't hardly wait to get hold of those, which was really amazing to me. And was a huge learning opportunity for me to understand how important that is. Again, mind you, coming from another vocation where they say that's junk food, it's actually not. But from the Frito-Lay perspective of trying so hard to get that on people's the tables to today trying to get the squash or the tomatoes or the peppers or the whatever that we're growing on people's tables.
Very often labeling things does in fact carry too wide a brush. It does things. I think the new buzzword is ultra processed, and I'm not quite sure what that is, but it is fascinating how people are rethinking. But it's often a price point, isn't it? It's what they can afford when it comes to eating, and fresh food when they can get it, semi-regular is an economical choice for them.
I'm glad that we're able to do this because I know that when people are making decisions on what they're going to stretch their dollars over, I know that at least we can provide and give something back to them that probably is going to be one of the things that takes the hit.
Well, Tara's here now. She has been dying to talk to you for some time. As you may or may not know, she's a deep thinker on all things gardening and all things farming. And when she was aware of the projects that you were doing, she lit up big time, and she's got a lot of things to ask you.
So how many, you said on average, how many pounds are you producing a year now?
I'm going to still say we're in the... Well, first off, let me tell you, I did listen to the last podcast, and I was especially the piece about how much rain we were getting, and the garden was getting as much rain. So this year we're really not experiencing a great growing year. We've had many challenges with weather, rain, humidity, weeds, bugs, all those things that everyone else is having a problem with. And so this year is going to be down, but we're still in around the 3,000, 4,000 pounds of stuff that will come out of that. Tomatoes being the number one item that we specialize in.
Well, I guess even a better measurement, because I think would be more impactful, is how many people, families, individuals, how many are you serving? How many are you helping with this project?
I don't know that I can provide that because it goes to... Well, last year we were serving 11 different locations that we were getting fresh produce to, and this year we're down a little bit because we just don't have the amount of produce due to the growing season in particular.
But the need hasn't changed, though.
Oh, the need has not. The need's gotten greater.
So tell me about that, because I think as a citizen, and since I'm also in the more southern area of Botetourt, if you looked at Botetourt, especially the southern region, Daleville, we're progressing at an extremely fast rate, right? And you wouldn't think that we had any type of food insecurity issue at all in this county. But what is going on in the parts that we might not be aware of? What does that look like, that scene?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think we need to redefine what food insecurity is too. And it's not just that people don't have resources to food. It's just they don't, in some cases, may not be able to afford enough of it. So those things have kind of changed throughout the course of the year. And they're still making decisions on whether I really need that medicine or the kids need the stuff for school or whatever versus, what we can afford to get. So we got involved in, during COVID. COVID was the worst thing that ever happened to us because it threw us out of the building. And when we were out of the building, we then paid attention to who was around us. So you're right. This county, if you look at it from a view that may be south of here looking north, you'd immediately see, oh, that place has got it going on and they don't need anything, but that's not the case. Right. There are plenty of pockets and areas of people who it's not that they're not recognized, but that they are in big need. And this county is in the amount of people that we see come through the food pantries. There's a lot of people who could benefit from what these local food pantries, and there's some wonderful ones here in Botetourt, what they can do and what they help people with. But when we got active into the food pantry area, the church that I serve, when we got active into doing that, we discovered that we're a satellite from Feeding Southwest Virginia, and we are an accredited food pantry. And now I serve at the one that's in Fincastle, and they have set up to where you can be, they call it buddies with grocery stores, and you can have a day that you'll go there and you get the day old stuff. And in most cases, the day old stuff looks just as great as it did before the day that it got to be the day old stuff, except for produce. And that looked like crap that needed to be thrown in the dumpster.
Mhm.
I had a hard time thinking we're going to give that to somebody and feel good about it. So, no, we knew that we could do better, and we knew we had to find a way to be able to offset that and make it better for people, and have something that, I guess it's okay to say that we were proud of giving out to people, and knew that it was good for them and their families.
Yes, and good for the community. I mean, this is about, like, I would say, putting your mask on before helping others as a community. You're only going to be as good as you are as your weakest link, right?
Can I ask him a question since you guys are on a really important topic here? Just a slight variation. You came from a company that was really good at making a product and then marketing it to people. And in that marketing process, you had to display it well, you had to advertise it well, and you were really good at it. When you got into this business and began learning how to grow a tomato or how to make a pumpkin, and you were getting all this good advice, my recollection is that you spent some period of time reimagining or recreating ways to put that product out in front of people. Can you tell me a little bit about that journey and then where you have pivoted to now? Is that the best model, or are you still creating ideas on how to put food out there for people?
We're still creating ideas. That part of marketing never fell out of me. So, there's a fine line when you're a competitive person as to how far you go with that. But I think that one of the best ways that we share is that we are able to take pictures of the produce and put it out there to where people can see that it's, and we're not in the game to be the best produce ever. We just want to be the best that we can do to get to other people. But we are still, to this day, every single day, every week, every growing season, every year, there are resources that are out there that are available that we just haven't tapped into yet or discovered. And we're still searching for the best outlets, the best ways to share this story. Because thankfully, over the years, we've had some really wonderful opportunities, Channel 7, to come out and help us share our story. And every time that we share this story, we do get some people who are interested in, hey, that sounds like a really cool thing. And how do I become a part of that? But I would forewarn the majority of people is this is living the gospel out. What we do right now is do what Christ called us to be about, and that's caring for our neighbor. Now, that can be in a plethora of different ways, and I'm not saying this is the only way, but this is a very active way that we do it, and it's physically taxing. As I'm sitting here talking to you, I know there's a couple people that are harvesting this morning, and I'm thankful for that, and I'm also thankful I'm not one of them.
So talk about, like, what is your team of volunteers? Who are they comprised of? How many on average?
So never enough. We probably have a base of very regular 8, 9 people that come when called. But again, it's not for everyone. A lot of people have their own careers and their own jobs and their own families, and they're very busy. And I do understand that. But we also have organizations that say, call us. And that's what I've tried to tap into is the businesses that give people. Every year, there's businesses that will allow people a certain amount of hours that they will pay them for to go out and make a difference. Hey, here's the difference. The thing that makes it even further complicated is we never know too far in advance what our needs are going to be because we don't know when that tomato is going to change. We've seen them green. We've seen a plethora of tomatoes this year in particular green for weeks and weeks. And now they're starting to change. So it's hard, people have got to be able to kind of move quickly in some cases, and that doesn't always work out for people either.
But you do have some businesses that have volunteer hours.
Oh, yes. Yeah, not to name every one of them, but we have had plenty of them come out and do that. And we had been making a big thing about planting the last couple of years, and we would invite different churches and businesses to come in. I think maybe a couple of years ago, we had 70 people that were there to plant things to help with that, and we're grateful for that and grateful to have experiences to give to people for that. One of the most interesting, wonderful things that we tapped into here recently, and we had talked about it prior to COVID, and then COVID kind of gutted everything. But we started coming back around to it, and that's the local ag classes, like one in particular at Central Academy Middle School. They, for the last couple of years, I've taken stuff to them, and they've been able to plant the seed and get the plant growing and started. And then 1 year ago, they bussed the kids over there with the plants, and we were able to put them in the ground together. And what an incredible experience for them to know that their efforts are going to transfer and translate into somebody, maybe even your neighbor, getting what you have kind of pieced together and started.
Maybe not only are you physically reinvesting in your county, but you're emotionally reinvesting in your county. These kids too, like their community is, it's full circle. They're seeing that, so they're going to feel even more connected and appreciate others, themselves and their neighbors in the process. But you're also feeding them.
Well, and I think that's important for people who come and just volunteer too, because then you get a chance to see that, this is more than just what's being talked about, right? If you can engage in a conversation about people that are in need in our county. And one of the things that we've kind of fought intentionally against is trying to decide who needs and who doesn't. We don't make that decision. We just make the decision to have it available, and we give it out. We got involved with Feeding Southwest Virginia when COVID came about. Kids were out of school, and so many children utilized the schools for their meals. And so they had prepacked meals, and we got to engage with them, and we were a distribution center, and we would have, we did it every single week, and we would have, 75 to 100 kids coming through there.
75 to 100 kids.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
a week.
With their mom and dad, because we needed the kids to be present. And we would hand those things out to the families. And there's a huge need. And I know that need hadn't gone away because things haven't gotten mysteriously better for any of us.
You gave me the look, Tara, and I know what that look is, and it's good. Now, another one where I cut off that last conversation, but I think it's important to get on the recording. So go ahead and ask that question you were going to ask before I interrupted you about the children and.
Well, all age groups. It just kills me in particular because if you're not caring for the younger ones, what is the future going to look like? But so. How can people get involved? There's probably a ton of ways, right? Besides actively volunteering. You said you have access to grants. I can think of maybe just a couple grants already on hand, like that local food promotion or that one. Can anybody help write grants for this? Could they help with logistics and coordination? Businesses volunteering their employees?
I can't imagine a way that we can't utilize people and their gifts or whatever they can bring, because really to make this sustainable, it's going to play out if we don't get more involvement and people don't connect. And it's an ecumenical project. It's a project, a ministry that can be for and needs to be for multiple people. I've encouraged people. I was just in conversation a week and a half ago, and it was someone was telling me they'd called for another reason. They called the church for another reason, but we were talking, and he said, I've heard you have a garden, and such is talking about looking for land that they can lease or get, and they're going to create the same thing. And I'm like, stop them. Tell them don't do that. Tell them to come here. We've already built the framework. We can extend it. I mean, I'd love to see us extend it if we needed to. That's kind of been in our minds, but what happens is we need people to be interested in it. Create a space where it's inviting, create a space where we can not only help with food insecurity, but also to help be that person that is there to hear your story, there to have conversation with you, there to hear about what's going on and find out how we can help. Maybe one day there'll be resources in there where schools that teach people how to do things like hairdressers and stuff. Maybe there's a couple chairs there for people to come and do some work like that. Something that's even has more than just what we've been talking about. That's a great experience for those who ordinarily wouldn't be able to have that.
Chuck, thank you so very much for sharing that story. That's going to stick with us. Our time with you is going to stick with us. And Tara, once again, we've cracked open a door of our community here about the amazing things that are happening.
The executive producer of Forgotten Fields is Teresa Reed. Interview segments are conducted by Tara Williamson. Our resident Mythbuster is Tom Williamson. For Robin Reed, resident meteorologist and broadcast engineer, we hope you'll join us next time.